And a lot of people have that. They're scared. They're scared of failure.
I think people are scared. I think people lack self-esteem.
But failure is one of the most important things you could ever have as far as like the motivation to do things differently. One of the reasons why I'm good at work is because I've been a shit worker in the past, and I know the feeling of failure.
Even when you lose, it's okay to lose, but you can't never get comfortable in it.
So I really had 2 failures before I succeeded with GoPro.
How do those failures drive you today?
Well, at the time, they scared me, right? And failure isn't easy. It wasn't like I thought, oh, cool, I failed.
That's how I'm going to start this episode.
Yes.
Saying, time to be appropriate.
I'm looking forward to like 10 viewers.
10 with these guys? I don't know. I think we'll get higher than that.
Well, we usually run higher, so I'm expecting only 10.
Yeah, people start tuning in and leave.
Yeah.
Oh, those guys, I'm out of here.
Fine. I'll play some music for us all to get us in here.
This works. I think I got it. Yep, now it's going.
There you go.
Yeah, I think. Well, yeah,
Live
sometimes
stream.
I had set it up previously before we were talking, and it like goes in like limbo, and then it doesn't work or whatever.
Time's out.
Frank, you ever wish you could do like a podcast like Aaron Snyder or somebody where you could just say whatever you want and don't give a crap?
We kind of say whatever we want, but even I'm sure Cafaro Cast still does not say full disclosure what they really want to say. If I was a betting man, hold on a second, I'm gonna have to say I had to mute the
feedback.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, we already say pretty much whatever the heck we want to, so it's not like it's the end of the world. Anyways, we're gonna let this build up. We got Mr. Ryan Davis with us tonight, and Tim the Hermit. I thought that's what it was.
I post. I mean, my thing is like, if something I think is pretty cool, I think should be shared, I'll post it. And sometimes I take pictures and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna post that later, and I never do.
No, you don't. I thought it would be all fishing stuff, but it's not. It's like goofy stuff like pandas and turtles and stuff.
Yeah, and there's some turtles on there.
And eating cheese and crackers and beer.
Beer.
Yep.
He says yes. We're gonna let it. We've built up quite a bit.
We got 3.
We have 10.
There you go, John.
Probably the max.
Already met the goal.
Robbie was texting me like for the last half hour. When are you going live? 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 You know, because he's like, I want to watch. Anyway,
boy, he doesn't have a life.
Yeah.
Apparently not.
I mean, we're Monday night prime time here, so I mean.
Anyways, we're gonna get into it. We're not gonna worry. It's at 10. That's probably the max, so we're just gonna go around with it. We have
quick before we lose them all.
Quick, everybody. I texted you once. Look at Robbie's cursing in the. I hope Facebook cancels you for cursing.
Report user.
report user. We're talking about training for expectations, and we actually at the seminar there was a portion that talked about managing expectations, but Ryan and I were shooting next to each other, next to Mick actually too. We're hanging out in the practice range for a while at the Classic, and this discussion came up, and we talked about sort of like our introduction into Barebow and like where things went very quickly, and then how things sort of with managing life and whatnot sort of changed a little bit. And that's where this topic came up. We started having this conversation. It was actually a pretty damn good in-depth conversation. We're like, we should just do a podcast about this and rehash it, because not everybody's going to understand it. And maybe some of the lessons that we've learned along the way would help some people with their own journey per se. So with that being said, gentlemen, introduce yourselves, where you're from, where you shoot, stuff like that. And we'll go, Ryan, why don't you start first?
Ryan Davis, I'm from Indiana. I shoot locally, no club really, just a local range. Spent a lot of time at Dan Hare's house. We have he's got some ranges over there that we built last year and some stuff he's had already. And shoot Barebow since 2020, about 2 weeks before 2020 Classic. I put a Barebow rig together. The year prior to that, I shot like a wood trad bow. Did some like trad worlds type events and stuff like that. IBO. That's
international, well, team member, World Games.
Yep, World Games bronze medalist.
Well, World Games bronze medalist. Yeah, you've been in the mix. It's not like, it's not just that. It's Dan Hare's been around a long time. I have seen pictures of Dan's range. He's got a nice little setup there for sure. Dude's committed to archery. I can give him that.
Yeah.
Tim, how about yourself?
Yeah, I've been shooting for about 10 years or so. Started off with a longbow I saw at a shop. It was a piece of junk, hill style. Got a compound, had that for about 3 months, decided that wasn't for me, much preferred the single string, and I got a little nicer longbow, all like 55 pounds. Developed some target panic, and just things got here and there, and then finally reached out. Ken Rhinus and then John Demmer. I was like, I just got to put together something, and John's like, get some lighter limbs, get a Barebow rig. That was December, and I'm like 2 weeks later, I'm like, I'm going to the Classic, and so went to the 2018 Classic, and 19, the 20, 21, there wasn't one. I skipped 22 and then went to the last one. But I've done some Barebow stuff. 2019, I did longbow to work towards the World Archery 3D team. I made the team, finished up 5th overall there in Canada, Maklabish. And then tried to kind of get longbow going a little bit. Lancaster, started the Longbow Outlaws, the competition longbow group on Facebook, which Santo Hermano and Chris McCoy Johnson, they take care of that now. They're running that. That's where their passions are. And so I've been doing Barebow since last year. I just decided I want to make it a little easier on myself and just tune the bow, tune the arrow, and I got a little more flexibility and had a lot of fun doing Barebow.
Nice, man. And you had a hell of a run at the Classic too. It was impressive to watch. Some guy steps up there. The Force, I think the Force you quoted. It's funny, man. Like, you were the best, 100%, like the best personality on stage for this Classic. It was just so much fun to watch. And
second best personality, but we'll disagree.
No, 100% first.
Well, I mean,
You don't get
John
that much
Winker was
credit.
up there. John Winker was up there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Winker's got a shtick to him. I agree. It was cool, man. It was cool to watch. Like secretly,
It was a good run.
I think a lot of people were rooting for you just from like, you just stepped up there, you were calm, you were cool. And I think some of that's going to come out in this conversation tonight. Shooting fingers against the knock or almost.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Just going old school
like,
NFA trad style. Just use some old techniques that I've learned from over the years. And it's like, it's
Why get away
consistent. Yeah, exactly. It's consistent. It's, you can get, clearly you can get great at doing crawls. It's a variable, especially under pressure. If I can make it work
you're
without
opening
crawling,
Pandora's box right now, man.
I'd rather not do it. I'm just saying, personally, it's a personal choice. If I can get away from it under pressure, I'd rather do that. If I'm shooting field or 3D, that's when I need to crawl. Sure. I think even shooting 50 meters, it's a fixed distance. Just do it.
Keep it simple.
Exactly.
Yeah. More simple. So just for clarity, your finger up against the knock. Are you point on? You have it set up so that you're point on. All right, so that's a tunable thing. Put it in the middle.
Yep.
Easy crawl. Well, there's none.
Exactly.
So less of a variable to make a mistake.
Yep. And a little bit faster shot sequence. If I get down to Louisville, that's only 20 seconds on the clock down there. So slight advantage.
Right.
Not having to worry about crawling and make sure it's exact.
Right. Well, I think
someone's counting on making the top 8.
Uh-oh. Where are you
expectations?
Where are you two shooting nationals at and when?
24th.
Yep.
So same weekend.
Mason. Yep. Okay. He's like 2 hours from my house, so we shoot a lot of the same stuff.
Gotcha. Good deal. All right, watch out, everybody. These guys are shooting indoor nationals. All right, that's good. That's a good start. So expectations. So I did the whole like Merriam-Webster dictionary thing, and just I'm going to read through the definition of expectations: the act or state of expecting, anticipation. Imagine that. Something expected, basis for expecting or assurance, prospects of inheritance, usually used in plural, the state of being expected. So, I mean, obviously it's based off of expected, but the act of expecting something and the anticipation of something, that's the number one definition. And, you know, Ryan, we really started kind of like breaking that down unknowingly as we were standing there and we are talking about like how we put our expectations up. Do you want to dive into that conversation a little bit? And Tim, you know, we'll talk, you know, you can relate it to your experiences, even with the classic, Tim, you know, maybe where you would classify your expectations as we roll into the conversation. John, same for you too. I mean, you're at a different level of this conversation just because of
It's
your
called
vast
over the hill.
experience. Well, I
Yeah.
wouldn't go that far. Not yet. Not yet.
Well, you guys can do the Merriam-Webster definition, and when you get to me, I'll
You
do the
your own.
urban.
All right,
I'll do
fine.
the Urban Dictionary.
So Ryan, let's break down the conversation a little bit.
All right.
Go.
Well, so another, you know, definition would be a strong hope or belief something will happen, right? So the problem with that is there's an attachment to the outcome. And whenever we expect an outcome, we're not focusing on the act to create the outcome. And that's a big problem in archery. You know, if you go to the range, I'm going to shoot a 280 today. There's a good chance you're not going to shoot a 280 today. You're so focused on a 280 that you're not going to run your process, whatever it might be. And I think that's where a lot of people have problems leading to either their first tournaments or a big tournament like a Lancaster is, you know, they go for a while and they're shooting lots of practice and good scores, whatever they may be for that person. And they're expecting to go to that shoot and shoot that same score. Well, that pressure is going to probably destroy you. And when you shoot, say you're a 250 shooter, okay, you're going to, obviously on a 250 shooter, they're going to have a couple thrown arrows. They're going to have a couple bad ends in there, but then they're going to have some good ends as well. Well, what happens is when you get under that pressure, the chances are you're going to take those bad ends with you. That's the guy that you're going to show up to the shoot with. And you start throwing some bad ends, what happens? You're going to start saying, well, I got to shoot better. I got to catch up. And next thing you know, you're in this downward spiral and you're thinking all the wrong thoughts, and it's terrible. And I've been there. I know what that's like. I think we all have. And you've got to be honest with yourself leading up to this stuff. And, you know, what kind of a shooter am I? And that's the shooter you need to go with.
So I want to comment on that just to help build on this. So I think the best way to summarize it is you can only bring to a tournament what you've built in practice. I mean, yeah, there's the one-off, hey, I hit 2 extra 10s and now my score is a PB. That's not likely. Tournament pressure, you're not comfortable, you didn't sleep in your own bed, like you're going to drop a couple points. I mean, is it 5, is it 20? It's whatever. You're not relaxed, not your home range, not your groove. The whole purpose of a tournament is to put you out of your groove, especially at Lancaster. That's why Rob has formatted that way, is to put you out of your groove. Yeah. So, I mean, don't have unrealistic expectations.
Yeah. Honesty, you got to be honest with yourself.
John, why don't you give the Urban Dictionary version and talk about how things go for you or have gone for you?
So I'm one of the unique people, I think, that I've actually never had expectations in anything archery related. I've never gone expecting to win. I've never gone expecting to shoot my best. I've had people put expectations on me, but that to me, that doesn't wear on me because I don't pay attention to that noise. The first one on Urban Dictionary is pretty clean. So it follows suit. I've never had expectations. A guaranteed way for you to make sure that people will consistently disappoint you. The girl had high expectations of guys. She actually thought that the guy would not actually stomp on her heart and break it. So I have not fallen into that trap yet. So, but I think that's probably one of the reasons I've been pretty consistent is I don't go in expecting to win. I don't go in expecting to do great. I go in there wanting to put forth the work at the moment and trying my best to achieve the best work I can do.
Right. For the given situation you're in. And that might change, right?
Yeah.
You get off pace.
And the knowing and understanding that you can't control what everybody else does. The only thing that you can do is control how you feel, no matter what the situation, the outside noise, maybe somebody heckling in the background, or you step on stage and everybody's cheering for the other guy or girl or whatever. That kind of stuff. You just gotta do your work. Pay attention to what you're doing, control what you can control, and everything else outside of you and inside your head, you have no control over it. So you got to just flush that to the side and not even pay attention to it.
Tim, you're nodding with an exuberant yes.
Yeah.
What's going on in your brain?
I mean, that's exactly it. So, I mean, one of the things I've been able to kind of reflect on in the past week, it was absolute hell on Saturday. We finished shooting. Well, some of the delays between the elimination rounds, that kind of sucked. But then, we're done. And it's all right, we got 9 hours to wait. It's forever. And that anticipation and the wait and the dread knowing that's coming, that was gruesome.
Well, some of us had to wait, Tim, not all of us.
Well, he's saying that you got up there before him is what he's saying.
No. I'm saying there's two on the panel that didn't have to wait.
Oh, gotta be a dick.
So I did say to Ryan, I said, dude, why the hell did I do this? And he goes,
I got
don't want to be here.
Taste of the stage. I waited too, pal.
you want
Technically I did too. So
I got near it.
No, anyway.
So I mean, that anticipation was terrible. But then I got up. I was definitely nervous. Got up against Winker, got out there. First couple ends, the first one, Brian's slow down. You've not shot like this at all today. And I'm like, yep, all right, gotta breathe. And then, first 3 ends or so felt very rushed, very this ain't right. And that fourth end, I'm like, you got this. Put it in the bag, slow down, execute your shot. And then at that fourth end, from there until when I was done, it was just me shooting a bow at the range. I mean, 10, 11, whatever. They hear the clappers. Get up there full draw. By the time I full draw, the crowd was kind. They were quiet, and the nervousness went away. And part of me thinks that I then had a chance to do something about my nervousness. It's not sitting there in the anticipation of this big event. It's up there. Now I just get to go do what I've done a lot of and work my shot and try and make it work. And just hopefully, you're not feeling weird tension, and your shot feels natural and you're able to make it. And once I was able to have that release of, I can actually shoot now, it was much better. But that anticipation of that was so much worse. Like John was saying, when you have the opportunity to do what you do, that's what you're on stage for, is that you can work your shot sequence. You can cling to that and just do what you know how to do, and it makes it so much easier.
It's good stuff, man. If you could bottle that up and sell it right there and just take a pill and be like, hey, I get it now, people would buy the shit out of that. Because I mean, it's true, and I've talked about it before, but I've never been in an atmosphere like the Classic, so I can't talk to that. But we watched you put on display what you just described, so it really should be a lesson. I mean, and John, like John said, he's, it's I guess it's unique for you, JD3, but it's something that you've always communicated, to your credit, and Grayson too. What both of you have said multiple times, or maybe in private conversation or personal conversation face to face, like, I don't care. Like, it is what it is. I'm just here to shoot the best arrow I can. But it's so hard, I think, for a lot of people to just, I would say 98% of the people, 99% of the people out there have a hard time just not caring, because sometimes I think it's self-fabricated, the pressure, for sure. Social media plays a huge role in that. But I think that you guys exemplify the idea of, like, I'm just here to shoot. All of you, the three of you, I'm just here to shoot and do the best I can. And that's like, I think there's stages to that. I think the first stage is sort of getting over the, do you guys remember in the beginning, maybe like your first indoor round, they're like, oh, the first end is for score thing? You guys kind of recall that? You know, John, I don't know if you've ever totally experienced that. Maybe you haven't, maybe in the really, really early stages.
Oh, I still get nervous in the
A little
beginning.
bit. Yeah.
Yeah. But you learn to deal with it and shoot through it and not let it consume you.
Well, I think that's the stage. I think that's what I'm talking about, like the stages thing. It's like that first end, and then it's that first real tournament shooting for a really good score, and you get kind of like edgy toward the end, and you know, or that first head to head, or that first time on the Lancaster stage. I think there's levels to it. And you know, but the reality is if you go back to the shot that you make on the practice range when you shoot your best archery, is still the shot that you're pursuing, even in all those other moments.
Right.
You know, it's just, I guess it's hard to communicate what it is. I guess maybe the goal is because we've already derailed not really. We're kind of by default talking about it, but
yeah, it's all expectations.
It's the, you know, I think it's hard to put into words so people can listen to three people with, and I'm not including myself because, you know, I've never been on the stage of the World Games or the Classic or any of the plethora of tournaments that John has. But it's that idea of breaking down, this is what it feels like, this is what it is, don't do this, do this. And I guess maybe that's really the goal of this podcast, is to say to guys like, and girls, sorry, ladies, saw a couple ladies in the comments already.
Robbie.
Yeah, so I said a couple. The other one was Picoli. Sorry, Robbie. We love you, buddy. Kind of. Yeah. So yeah, that's that. I don't know. I think Tim, and Ryan, you all hit it on the head already. I don't know. I mentioned
so. I kind of want to hear about Ryan though. So I mean, like, you know, I've known Ryan for a couple of years. You know, I met him in 2020 at the USA Indoor in Mason. You know, he did some great stuff in 3D back in 19 and 20. But like the journey he went on in 2022 is crazy. So first big term of the year, he's on the stage. And then he goes on, makes Team USA for the World Games. He's the one male barebow archer we sent. And then he also goes on and make it to the World Field Team. Like, that's a hell of a journey, all for 1 year. Like that's nuts. And so like I had the one experience of the 3D team, and my expectation wasn't to win or all of that. It was just to go, show up, make good shots. And as long as you stay in that process and make good shots, you just hope it's good enough to make it. So I mean, what was your prospect? I mean, you did a lot last year.
Well, I think this ties into expectations pretty good, because for the World Games, I literally had zero expectations, because that was my first international tournament. That was, I am very new at field. To make the team was my first field tournament, and then World Games was my second field tournament. So I didn't know what good scores were. I did,
Jeez.
but no. And so when you go to that tournament, I think that's what helped me do well, is you just kind of go and do what you can do. You're right. I just, all I can control is, my shot. I can't, like John said, I can't control what other people do. I can just shoot my best shots. And it ties back in. So, at the beginning, we talked about expectations is very focused on an outcome, right? And an outcome is a result of a plan, a process, a set of actions. So if you want that, if you want the outcome, you can achieve the outcome, but you must focus on your process or your set of actions or your shot, right? In archery. And if you do that and you're honest and you do that, you will achieve your outcome. I'm not saying that, there's a skill set. You're not going to have a lower skill set and do these big things because you're just not there. You don't have the time in yet, but you have to be reasonable with your expectations, and like John said, if you have zero, all you can do is go and do your best. And then if you don't make it, you learn from your mistakes, right? Failure can be a great thing if you let it, and it's failure, and I think that's key, and then leading into World Field, I had some expectations, and that bit me pretty good because, a lot of times expectations cause stress and anxiety, and that stuff for me causes target panic, and I have target panic pretty bad. That's why I have my highs and lows, and so I get amped up, and I went to World Field, and I didn't perform nearly like I wanted to, or maybe I'm capable of doing with the correct mindset, and I didn't have it for that tournament. And so I could, personally, I could be down on myself about it, and make excuses. My equipment, this and that. It's not that. It's I got to be reasonable with my expectations and learn from my mistakes for next time. Which should be, just not have expectations. Just you got to go and do your best for the given situation, and that's all you can do.
And I'll piggyback a little bit off of that. You threw out the word failure. I think the only time, like, people need to understand, the only time that you go to a tournament and fail is if you go to the tournament expecting a lot, not achieving it, and then come away not learning a thing. Like,
exactly.
If you learn nothing, then that was a complete waste of time for you. Like, if there's something, there's always, you always have the opportunity to learn. You always have the opportunity to enjoy what you're doing, and you always have the opportunity to do your job. Everything else is like, that's like we've been saying the whole time, your outcome is going to be a direct reflection of how you did your job. And that's something that failure ties into expectations. Usually if you have high expectations or whatnot, you fail most of the time, because a lot of times you didn't go in there open-minded to observe all the knowledge from that particular event that you could have.
Right. Yep. And then, you can adapt. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can speak on that real quick. So if you want to go back and look at my Lancaster scores, 18 was like 263, 19 like 463, 19 was like 467, and then I went with a longbow in 20, it was like 493 or whatever. And then every tournament I went to after that always was better. It's like Lancaster has been the bane of my existence. But when I went this year, it's like, no, you've already done this. This is no different than 3D art, 3D worlds or anything else. This is just your shot sequence. Show up and do it, because I went and I didn't fail, but I didn't do as well as I had hoped. And I was able to take that and then build upon it for this year.
It's good stuff.
Yep.
Well, I think that's where the training for expectations comes into play, and we don't have to get in depth into training, but like, you have to be confident that you've prepared for what you're about to do. Like, no rock unturned. You did every drill, every volume of arrows that you expected to do.
Yep.
Like, you have to be willing to sacrifice that to achieve whatever it is that you are pursuing. And if you're not, if you're a 1 day a week person, or maybe 2 every once in a while, those are the results you're going to get. If you're a 100 arrows a day for 5-6 days a week person, and you're willing to do the extra stuff to what we always say is to address the weakness, whatever the weakness is, those are the results you're going to get.
Yep.
That's what it is. It is what it is. I mean, that's actually a pretty simple breakdown of the whole expectation thing. Like, if you're not willing to make changes, John has said that so many times, like, it's like beating a dead horse. If you're not willing to make changes, if you're like, well, this is the way that I do it. Okay. You keep doing that until you finally realize that it's not working. And then don't be afraid to make a change. And when you make the change, commit to the change. Don't do it for 2 days, for a week, and then be like, oh, this doesn't work. You know, this is such a pin. Go ahead, Ryan.
Sorry, I think another good point for, maybe some of the folks that are listening that, maybe haven't gone to a large tournament before, and, you go to your home range and they have to, and you touched on it, prepare for other things that happen at tournaments, prepare for the lighting. How many times have we heard people say the lighting's bad? It's like, well, hey, that's part of it. That's part of it. You don't know what you're going to get. Timmy and I were going to go shoot at Mason. The lighting's terrible at Mason. Everybody knows it. It is what it is. I'm not going to say that's going to affect my score, because then you've already failed. You have to go. That's part of it. And then how many times has somebody lined up on a line with a left hand, if they're a right-handed shooter, if the lefty, line up against Robbie, and then
does Robbie dip his limb in your lane?
Well,
that's Steve Oakley move right there.
For a lot of people, that's very that's very weird, and that just might be luck of the draw, and you show up with high expectations, and you got Robbie, and you're facing Robbie all day, and that will play right in your mind game if you haven't prepared for that. So then suddenly you had expectations of this, you start catching off pace. Well, you have to adapt and say, okay, well, that's not happening. And how fast can you do that? And say, giving this lighting or whatever's going on, and just modify your expectations, right? And you keep a positive mindset, and you just keep running your process. And for that given day, that's the best you can do.
Hey, Ryan,
learn from it.
How many times did I adjust my plunger on Saturday?
I don't know.
A lot. remember how we were going through there in the practice fails?
And I made you do that.
Yeah,
let's see what it does.
Yeah, we got to move this stuff. We got to figure this out. We had a plan. You were a great coach. We had a plan.
You have to have a plan.
If you're and what does a half turn do? Let's figure that out. Like, what does a half turn do this way with this lighting? And went out and banged a 9 right away.
It doesn't help that the lighting on the practice range versus the stage is not the same either. But
I didn't touch my plunger once.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
I made them jump between all 4 lanes.
Yeah,
I said, go out there with the average. Go out there with the average.
Yep, you did.
That's good stuff. That's some high level stuff.
You had in 22, man. You had the experience.
And I think that there's a lot of people that don't. It's not they don't realize that. It's just they maybe haven't thought of that. And how many times does it take you? I mean, I'll go and shoot a practice round and, have hopes or whatever. And maybe I shot a really good round the day before or something, and go in there and be like, well, I'm going to go. And then you just get off a little bit. And in a tournament setting, it just turns into a downward spiral. And then you suddenly feel, or you could just say, hey, it is what it is. And you can adapt and quickly get your head back in the game. And then it ends up not being a bad round. And you can just shrug it off. And then you've learned from that for the future, for next time. And then so next shoot, you go and you're like, oh, well, I've done this before. I know right what to do. And it doesn't shake you. It's nothing.
So would you say that expectations, I think one of the things that's helpful as far as coming to a tournament, your expectations, oh, I did this in practice, it worked well. I think one of the things like you're saying that you had a couple bad ends, you might need to make a change in the middle of that. Expect to make a change. So like, I know we're kind of stretching. We're talking, plan to make changes, right?
Know what stuff does.
Right.
If you don't know what your equipment's doing and something's happening, I mean, you're just going to be a mess.
Yeah.
So like we just talked, know what happens if you put a half turn in your plunger.
Yep.
And well, I don't need to. It's tuned. It's like no, do it and see what it's doing.
Yep.
So then you get there and you can just run the fly. You're adapting, and you don't go down that because archery's mental. And the second you let those negative, hey, I can't fix this. Oh no, you're done.
Yeah.
One other tip.
Versus, what is that? I know what to do.
Go ahead.
Intentionally do a wrong
better.
crawl. Do a different notch in your crawl. So when you get down there, you're like, you can tell, that arrow, I hit the 7 ring. It's clearly the wrong crawl. And you'll focus, and the next time, make sure your crawl's right.
I was going to say, a lot of people are scared of making adjustments on the fly. I know in the beginning I was like, I got this tune. This is perfect. It hits down the middle. And then you get there and you're like 3 inches to the right. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then you're afraid to make a change in the beginning. I remember first starting Barebow, shooting next to that fool that's down there with his eyes closed, you prick.
No, I'm actually awake. I'm far enough you can't see it on purpose, but I am.
And he would be adjusting plungers, changing plungers, doing whatever. And I'm like, who the hell is this guy? In the beginning, like I was like 5 years ago at this point. And I'm like, this guy's just making changes on the fly like it's nothing. But in reality, if you know, like Timmy just said, if you know what the result is going to be, or you don't care what the result is going to be, you can do that. And and more times than not, if you're educated on what's going to actually happen, you're going to see a positive result from those changes, because you have intuition and knowledge and background. Like, okay, I'm going to make this change.
Or you'll continue to see the bad crap that's happening already. You just keep doing the same bad shot over and over again. So the alternative seems pretty obvious.
Yeah.
John, you're notorious for making changes on the fly, or even just days before a tournament. Why is it that you've gotten to the point that you just talk to it a little bit about your lack of fear per se, if I were to describe it for the general public who don't do it, of just, you're going to make a change for why? What is talk about that?
A couple of reasons, and they're not exclusively connected, but like if you're going down a certain path and your score isn't going the way it should while you're shooting the way you should, then it's either, okay, we're going to continue down this track of making great shots, not shooting the way or not scoring the way you want, or try to do something a little different and see if that helps. Having shot a lot of shoots that weren't going as planned, whether it be trying to make a team and things weren't going quite right yet, and just seeing down the road how this is going to lead. If nothing's working as planned, all right, well, it's time to do something a little different, like change something, like ditch that arrow as soon as you can and grab the other set of arrows, quick move your plunger again like the way you think it should be, and then start banging again. It's just some of it's just frustrating the way you're going, and just things aren't working the way they should be, but you're shooting the way you should be. You just, maybe you didn't have the maybe the adrenaline that you had in practice, or the adrenaline of a tournament. Things they're just different for whatever reason. It's no different than, say, an Olympic archer who has a 28-inch draw, and that day their draw length isn't 28 inches, it's 27 3/4, and they just sit there and struggle and struggle and struggle, and they can't get through that clicker. And you got that beaten in your head, well, you're not doing everything right, that's why you're not getting through the clicker. But if you realize that your body's not the same every day, there's going to be little micro adjustments, then you make that adjustment. You bring that clicker in, just you push that clicker out a little bit and shorten your draw to fit that day, because not everything's going to be the same every day. So that's one of the reasons why I'm willing to change, because I understand that not everything's going to be the same every day. Your body's going to be a little different. Sometimes your fingers aren't going to be as mobile one day, maybe, or you woke up with a stiff back or a stiff neck. So there are some times that you have to change. It's not a you issue per se, like your execution level. It might be a body thing where something's just a little bit different. That's one. And then the other is, the confidence isn't there. So let's do something that I know has worked in the past. So now I can eliminate something else and try to give me a little bit more confidence. I'll do that if I'm like getting maybe target panic creeps in a little bit. I might change up a different approach, just to shift focus and try to get hyper focused on something else. I haven't done that in a while because I've been able to overcome that for the most part. But the first reason is mostly the reason why I do it now, is just because sometimes you just aren't the same every day. You have to be willing to adapt to your body at that particular moment.
Yeah, I think this is kind of what Davis is saying too. Like some days practice is like, hey, 280s. Some days it's like, ooh, I'm lucky to get a 270. And everything feels the same, but clearly your body, your brain, something's not the same. And so you need to keep that in mind of your expectations. We do barebow because it has the highest volume of, variability in these major tournaments. Longbow, obviously different kinds of trad single string is kind of the same, but barebow is, there's so much relying on a human form. We're shooting pretty primitive machines.
Yeah, I've had ones where my scoring wasn't going as good, and I'm thinking I'm getting contact, like indoor nationals. I have taken my bow apart, gave it 2 pounds, and then shot. Adjusted my clicker just a little bit, adjusted my crawl, shoot the next arrow. It's like in the gold somewhere. I'm like, all right, we're good. Shoot the rest of the match, and everything like cleaned up. Probably because that particular day I wasn't drawing all the way, and I was short drawn a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch, and I had to readjust the bow to fit me for that day.
I think a high percentage of the people out there are going to have a hard time relating to those finite details. But I think that there's definitely a higher volume of people in that upper, let's say 5 to 10% of scores that we see. Just go off Lancaster, for example, who will. So that's going to help a lot of people. But what about the people who are still in those I don't want to say beginning stages, but they're in those stages of like, they haven't found the consistency to understand how those equipment adjustments affect how they shoot. What's your recommendation for them? Because that's a larger population of our community of people who are like, they're trying to get to that point. Do you know what I mean? Like, what's your recommendation for those people? Yeah. Do you like the people who are not consistent enough, or that are constantly cranking on that plunger, and they're just chasing it. It's like shooting a sight. They're chasing it one way and then they're chasing it back the other way. What's your feelings on that, or how do you?
So I think you're kind of right. So I think the first step. So one of the best ways to look at a feet of face, I'm going to talk about feet of face. You can apply it to the NFAA, but a feet of face is a great one. You're chasing colors. So you work on your form and your consistency. It's not about scoring, but you can observe yourself going, hey, I didn't hit anything in the black today. I didn't hit anything in the blue. Oh, hey, only a couple in the red. Oh, we had a lot more 10s. And you can, as you progress, assuming you're calm behind the shot. I mean, if you're suffering from target panic, it's very hard to diagnose. But you typically, even as someone who's suffering from target panic, you know what a good shot is versus a bad shot. Once you've been doing this for a year or two, even if you have target panic, you know what a good shot is. So you can only evaluate your good shots. But your goal isn't necessarily to be like, oh, I'm going to move my plunger now. If you're going like, I'm throwing one of the blue every 5 arrows, the plunger's probably not going to help you here. Go with your mean, focus on your goals. So I think you're kind of right that is more for that upper echelon, that's getting a consistency. And I don't necessarily mean that they're good shooters, they're just more consistent.
I'd say approach the tournament. Oh, I'm sorry, Tim. Go ahead.
No, yeah. Go. I was going to say, it just, your goal is not necessarily to make these adjustments to be at that level. It's to try and just shrink your groups into consistency. So that's the first step, is to find consistency. You got it, Ryan.
No, I was going to say for, like maybe a beginner, and they're going to show up to Lancaster, and the plunger adjustments don't do anything, maybe they're just beginning tuning. So their stuff isn't tuned in and stuff like that. Approach the tournament with zero expectations and approach it with, I'm just going to make the best shot for me. I'm going to go and I'm going to observe what's going on. I'm going to learn how this game is played. I'm going to get some line time. I'm going to understand what it's like shooting with the clock. And every shot, I'm going to do the best shot that I can make. And that's my goal. And I think that is a great goal. That's a great goal for me. And I think that's a great goal for any of us sitting here right now. If you can go to a tournament and just make every shot your best shot, your most focused, whatever your process is, and if you can run that, I think that is a good goal. And that fits the absolute beginner to the most elite level shooter. And then with that comes experience. And then you'll start to notice, like Tim says, your groups are going to shrink, and then you can start learning your equipment.
Yeah, I think that's great stuff. John, if you want to add anything, but I mean, I don't think there's much else to add to it. It's funny because what you said is what you guys all agreed to in the beginning about just making the best shot possible, not worrying about the outcome. It's still the same goal as it is for the beginner, just the different, maybe the results of the beginner is going to be a little bit different because maybe they don't quite understand tuning so much. There's a lot of beginners out there that obsess over tuning and equipment and their mind is just in a wrong place.
It's fun. It's fun. It's fun to talk tuning. But
are you
really
thinking about the
matter.
same conversation I'm thinking about, Ryan?
Yeah.
Well, my tiller, if a quarter inch here or there.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
It doesn't
Oh
matter.
boy.
It doesn't matter. Just
it
get
doesn't.
out there.
Yep.
And there's a point it'll matter, and it's not right now.
Nope. Yep.
Most days it doesn't matter for me either. I went up to Michigan and shot with those guys a couple weeks before Lancaster, and we're up there and shooting, and it was an okay round. My bottom tiller set screw rattled out. I don't know, whatever. And my bottom tiller grew a half inch during the round. I don't know. I got done, and then we got talking limbs or something. I was like, oh my God.
Yep.
And just like, I just tore my bow down, cranked it and checked it. Cause I thought something maybe was stripped out, checked it, put it back together, shot one arrow, went right back into scoring. And I was like, well, that just shows tiller doesn't really matter. It was a half inch off. So, and I think all of us, we shot really good indoor scores with very less than tuned equipment. So people that focus on that should definitely focus on other things.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I would mess around with equipment just to get your arrow to hit kind of in the middle. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care if your group's this big, as long as the gold is in the middle. Just adjust it until that.
Yep.
And then once you get that, in your head that everything's kind of centered now, and now just worry about just improving your form, your technique.
Yeah. And then piece by piece, you're gonna be like, well, maybe I should do this check this again. And then it's just, as you progress, it's going to happen. I mean, it's a natural progression. Some people do get stuck with a little more open groups. That happens. There's several people I've been watching online for years now, and they're starting to really have the same kind of realization, like, oh, their hitting mates are better now. It's like, yeah, they're doing great.
It's good stuff. I don't know, gentlemen. I think we covered it all. This is a very good podcast. It's very good, high level, and I think it covers the whole spectrum of the same topic, but it hits some of the outliers of how they can affect what you do in practice versus what you do in a tournament, and then and not just a regular tournament like a Lancaster tournament. Like for the new people out there, Ryan, I think you hit it pretty good. Like you're kind of going to the Classic for experience.
Mm-hmm.
Even some high level, like you might shoot some really high scores. Forget Matt Hudson, he doesn't count. You're officially in the meh category, Matt. So, your first attempt at the Classic is like meh. But like, for the most part, most people who go to the Classic, their experience, the high volume is like, just take it all in, learn from it, do what you can, but and then that high level discussion. Go ahead, Ryan. I don't want to.
Even Lancaster for me this year was zero expectations. I have a new process that is unproven, and the process I ran up until that point was not working for me. So I approached Lancaster, and Lancaster was my proving ground, and had zero expectations. In practice I was shooting some really good practice scores, and when I felt pressure, the process was not robust, and I knew that. So what better way to see? So I was willing to go to Lancaster and fail, and for maybe my expectations, but I didn't look at it as a failure. I through my round, I tried different things, and I learned so much from that tournament that I brought back home with me to then apply for the next one. And that's all I can do. So then the next one I go to, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I just learn from that one and apply it again. And I think, so somebody shoots at a higher level versus, and somebody shoots at a lower level, we can approach that the same way,
Yeah, I want to point out, like, we look at Lancaster's behind us, right? Vegas is behind us. So USA Indoor, it's not as easy to get, the right amount of people. There's, I think, 13 or 14 locations. But we're all gonna be in Louisville. We'll be at the practice bales. Like, a lot of the top end shooters will be in Louisville for the NFAA Indoor Nationals. That's the last weekend of March. So you can get in there, get the practice bales. We'll be there. We'll hang out. Bail mates are assigned randomly on Saturday, and then by how you score on Sunday. But you will learn there. I wouldn't say it's the same level of pressure at the Classic, nor the same amount of people, but you can learn a lot by just showing up to Indoor Nationals in Louisville.
I think shooting 5-arrow ends is definitely a little bit of a change for a lot of people who are used to only 3D and indoor too.
Yep.
The adjustment. I think the 50-meter gang is a little bit more used to it.
Yep.
Blue and white face a little bit of an adjustment. I think it's an easier adjustment, but maybe not for everybody. But yeah, that last year was my first experience at that tournament. It was a great time. Yeah. Practice range isn't as big as Lancaster. Be prepared for that.
Yep. And you got to find a scooter. You got to find your own scooter.
Yeah, you got to find your own scooter. We experienced that as well. However, we have proof that the scooters are a good time. That's all I got to say about
and durable. Thank you.
And very durable. Like Grayson.
You can hop curbs with them, and
Grayson.
Yep. But I think any one of us, like, obviously, we love talking archery. So for any of the newer type of people, beginners, do not be afraid to come up and ask a question. We'd be happy to help anybody.
I promise being nicer to you than I was to John Wirt on the stage.
Were you mean to our boy?
A little.
That's our boy.
He was trying to razz me, so I'm like, no. There's gonna be 800,000 people watching this video. I'm like, okay.
That was the mindset, man. You were in the zone.
Yeah. I wasn't there to talk.
You weren't there. Yeah, you were there to get the job done.
Yeah. This is here to talk. We're here to talk.
I think you ran out of steam. I don't know. Would you say it just kind of hit that wall?
So I reflected on this a little bit too. First end was strong. Fourth end was strong. Second was a 26. The third was a 25. They felt good, but I can't help but think that just fatigue got to me. But I mean, then I come back with the 31 after that. Maybe the kind of focused in, but maybe got lazy. I mean, it's kind of hard to really think about my mentality for every shot. But that's 49 arrows up on stage.
Lazy. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, it's lazy.
You're
in shape. You're in shape. We shot 60 arrows the day before, constant, nonstop. It's just hard to. It's the next level of
focus,
difficulty. You have to be focused every single arrow, every single end. There's no give in it. You can get in cruise control during like qualifications and stuff. But when you're on stage, you have to be focused every single arrow, because they're a head-to-head. You're a head-to-head match. Every arrow matters a lot. Like, you know, a 6 is worth like probably like 6 shot arrows.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to probably take you against a really good shooter. It's probably going to take you 6 arrows to have a chance to catch up.
Yep.
If you shoot a 6, you just
yeah,
can't.
and that's it. And that's exactly it. I mean, there's no question that 26 and that 25.
My 6 is
like,
what basically knocked me out when I shot a 6 against Lee.
Yeah.
Yep. I threw a 6, and that was like, well, there's that.
Yeah, you only had one bad end. That end, like your first, third, and fourth end in 2022 was great. You had that second end. It's like, shit. And Lee was like, I'm not making mistakes.
He cursed. That's the first time anybody's cursed on here in a while. Timmy cursed. I heard him.
I heard Timmy curse a lot.
Get him.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm doing pretty good. There's one that's doing pretty good.
Yeah, you're doing just fine. I curse enough for all of us.
I was gonna say, everybody, it wasn't even me.
Where do I put it? Where's the swear jar, guys?
Yeah. Oh,
I'll bring it to Louisville.
I thought you were looking for a signature on that.
I had a friend that suggested to me like 2 minutes ago that Tim has to, if he gets on here again, he has to call himself Tim Terrier Johnson. Oh, you know, just think about it. It's fine.
I have a dog that's a terrier.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, he's always somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, feisty little guy.
Yeah, so John shows up at my house and it just this little like 18-pound thing is like, I'm gonna fight John Demmer. Like, okay, dude.
And that's
not smart.
That's how I view Tim anymore, man. He's like a little terrier. Like, you can't count.
We're
that
the
guy.
same height.
Yeah, but you're a lot smaller.
I'm 180.
Both fucking small. Oh, geez. Oh, it's all right. It's only Facebook Live. You're all three of you are small. I don't want to hear it.
That's okay. We should put the three, Davis, Demmer, and I together in Louisville. Let's do like a little height comparison.
We'll do a comparison. I don't know.
Jeez.
So I'm gonna go.
Dumb and Dumber.
Ryan is the tallest, and I'm not gonna listen. John, don't hate me, but I think Tim's taller than you are.
Yeah, but yeah.
I'm wearing boots. I'm definitely wearing
probably
boots.
now.
I'm wearing boots.
Probably now, because I'm walking around like Hunchback of Notre Dame. and Tim does wear lifts. Yeah, he puts.
They're called wedges.
They're called.
They're orthopedic. They're prescription.
Oh, like orthotics type thing in your shoes?
I don't know. I'm just going with it.
They're club boots.
Go to the disco.
Oh,
well, this podcast got derailed real quick.
It always does. It never fails. That's why half the people actually listen to the podcast.
Yeah,
they just skip to the good stuff
in.
for like 15 minutes and then skip to the nonsense.
We just need Sweetheart Ryan to curse once. That's all we need to do, and then it's completed mission.
For fucking out too.
I don't think he ever curses.
I just did. You guys talked.
Oh, yeah, I heard it. He works in the steel industry, man. Of course he curses.
I'm an iron worker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That explains it.
That guy probably. I was in the army.
Mouth.
He probably said stuff I've never even heard.
Yeah, I have a mouth.
Too funny. I'm gonna scroll through some of the comments. There's a plethora of them, but Vikram said, I once saw JD3 switch plungers, springs, and arrows while tuning the day of a competition while having a full conversation with someone else.
Yeah. That's my buddy boy. He was at the house one night.
Oh yeah. He's an Olympic guy. We still let him hang around.
We will convert him. One day we will convert him. We just
wants to have more fun.
We just need to get Joe to sandbag one tournament so Vikram can beat him for one tournament, and then he'll come out and play.
Yeah. Chip says, John Chip Heffelfinger, know how much you adjust your plunger if you have to make a change, because if your body gets stretched out or back to normal form, you may need to make adjustments. Turns back out your plunger on the fly. Same with change and crawl. Just my thoughts.
And
Chip gets
yeah,
it.
and then be ready to go back to normal too. You should know where your plunger is at normal, optimal tune. And in the middle of the term, you're like, okay, I went 5 clicks, I went 10 clicks.
Yeah.
I'm hitting the left again. Let's get it back closer to normal tune. You should know that for sure. Because 60 arrows is a long time. We're talking 3 hours. Stuff happens.
Sure, absolutely. Jesse Rhodes says, this is why I keep I like keeping a log of my settings on my phone every shooting session. I record it at the end and find the medium eventually. Tiller, brace height, plunger, and settings. Ryan, you talked about you must have checked it before you started or knew what it was, and then by the end it was a quarter, half inch, whatever you said, difference. I mean,
there was a screw on the ground. Okay, there was literally a screw on the ground. Ryan's like, huh?
That's not good.
And there was like some pretty good shooters there too. We're all like,
just point to somebody else. Hey, you dropped your screw.
Yeah.
It was still an okay score too.
Yeah, don't think about it.
No, he was. He's killing it.
Santo said it took him 6 years to feel comfortable shooting at Lancaster.
Good.
Santo's been shooting a long time, but
Yeah.
you know, I mean, that's not out of the ordinary.
Is it sit? Well, it could be 6 times at Lancaster, or maybe it took him 6 huge indoor events. Like,
okay.
So like, you know, sometimes you get that number and you think like 6, okay, that took a long time, but you know, it might just be like if you went to like more indoor tournaments, like bigger ones, that curve could have been dropped, you know, much faster. And that's something for like, you know, people that are listening that are on the fence. Get those over with quick. Like those are the ones that, yeah, those are the ones that you want to knock out of the way real fast if you want to pursue the game of like competing.
Yeah, and those options exist. I mean, and especially for people who shoot a lot of 3D, you go to high volume arrows in an indoor tournament. There's no environmental changes. It's just you, the shooting line, your bow, and your target, and that's it. There's no variable. It's just you. Louisville, Vegas, Lancaster, indoor nationals, you know, all of it. I find it mentally the hardest one, like the hardest format to shoot. Like 3D, it's easy. Like you can go to 3D shoots, I think, and be much more comfortable because you have variables that you have to focus. So you always have a task at hand that's different. So you're not like stuck trying to like be complacent in the same task. You have to get up to the line and like, okay, you got to judge distance. Okay, let's go judge distance. All right, I'm hitting a little hot. All right, let's give this one a little bit less and shoot it. Where on the indoor range, I think it's more consuming to nerves, because you have all that other outside influences that are like just in your bubble space. Like and that's the hardest part, is kicking everything out of that bubble. Where 3D, there's nothing out there. You just have your group of 3 or 4 people, and that's all. That's everybody that knows that you're shooting. It's just that little group.
And even like World Archery, like going to the World Championships for World Archery, it was me and 3 other longbow guys, and it's just like at first like kind of tense. I was like, oh, we're just 4 archers in the woods shooting arrows, and there's a judge like 200 yards over there, but like there's no one here. Like it was completely different.
Good stuff. Ryan, if you got something, go ahead.
Nope.
Just agreeing. Christina Procoli says, I learned so much by playing with my equipment when I am having a solid shooting day. I don't mess with it when I'm not being clean and consistent. And that's really good information. And Christina, we can see that her knowledge about her shooting, and like we've seen a drastic change and improvement in her, and just the relative. She's always calm, but I mean, that's great.
The knowledge, the retention, and like self-awareness of what you're doing and how you react with your equipment.
Let me know how you guys feel about this. Buck Terry says, I have a rule now, and that is always give it 6 arrows before I start adjusting.
Nope. No way. That sounds like a solid like 10 to 15 points I could lose if I'm waiting that long. If I'm hitting one, if it's like, no, that was perfect, I'm very, very questioning. I'm probably still gonna give it the second arrow. That second arrow is somewhere over that way, it's getting clicks. If one end, go ahead, John. What's up?
So for classic example, look at the Lancaster Classic video. My first arrow was high, and I figured any arrow that I'm gonna mess up on my first end is gonna be my first arrow. Like, I'm gonna be a little bit amped. I try to tone that down as much as I can, but that was my first arrow, was high. I don't look that as a guide unless it was like way left or right. Because I know I'm probably gonna shoot a little bit high. So that's like, I kind of take that into consideration. I crawl just a little bit less just for that one specific arrow. But my next two, left. And I'm like, whoa, those were good. We're adjusting right now. I gave my plunger probably 2 complete rotations. And then from the rest there on out, I was much better. I was like way more centered. If I didn't do that, I would have been way out real fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you have to make those adjustments, you have to have a good shot or not. So that then the state of your current shooting comes into play a little bit. If you're just kind of flinch it off there, it's like, well, yeah, maybe don't make an adjustment. But if you're making a good shot, absolutely moving right now. Yep. And then if it pushes back, the next couple arrows all start creeping back. It's all good.
Yep. Exactly.
You know what it does. That's what we're talking about. You got to know what it's doing. And then you get stretched out and should be down the middle. Be good to go.
John, is that why you hit the 12 on your first arrow?
Yeah, because I always I will do it all the time, just because if I mess up an arrow, it's gonna be the first arrow.
So you're just giving it, you're like, hey, I'm gonna give it a shot.
And I don't shoot for it. It's just one of them. I would be much more comfortable if that 12 ring was on the left side or the right side of the bullseye.
You mean the right side?
I've seen all of your matches. You ain't wrong.
The right side, somewhere between the 2 and the edge.
What we need like a bonus like 15 ring that's 2 inches off the paper to the right.
It's funny that we're talking about this because Jared Mullis says, let's hear about the miss. I don't know what there is to talk about. I mean, you've talked about it many times.
Shit happens.
It's part of the game.
Well, it's I get that question, a lot, and if I knew there was a surefire cure for it, I would have done it a long time ago. It has, like, people always assume that it has something to do with nerves. It actually has 0 to do with nerves. It's not a nervous thing. My nervous thing are going to be like 8s. I'll shoot a lot of 8s with nerves. I won't shoot 0s. I won't shoot 2s. I won't shoot 4s. It will be because of a mental breakdown of the finish of my shot. Like, in my mind, it's hard to describe it. Like, in my mind, I've already completed the shot. That shot's already gone. It's off my fingers. And so, like, when you shoot and you let go and you're done, you relax and you start bringing everything in, getting ready for the next one. So in my mind, it's a malfunction. I already shot, like, it's gone. I'm like, okay. So my body starts relaxing. And as I relax, my fingers start to relax and my bow hand starts to come in. And soon as I get just a little bit of movement, because we have so much tension on that fingers, soon as this thing just relaxes a little bit, it lets go.
Yeah.
And that's why they are every single time to the right. They're either just off the paper or just barely hitting the paper.
And there's proof. There's proof that that's not a nervous thing, because you did that at Lonesome Road. I mean, it wasn't.
Yeah.
It's just a short circuit that happens.
I have 3 total. So one was in NFAA in 2019 with my longbow. I was in the trad class.
You hit your name tag, didn't you?
No, I hit his target.
Oh, you hit his target. Okay.
So I was ahead by 6 points, and then blammo, there just disappeared 5 points. And so up by 1 the whole rest of the time. Finished that end out, no problem. The whole rest of that match, I probably had like 4 or 5 ends left. The entire time, just kind of like, it always felt like, just don't let it happen. Just it was in my head big time. Fast forward to the 3D trials, I had the exact same thing happen, but I was lucky, so lucky that Panther had a big 8-ring, and I landed it like way back in the liver on an 8-ring on a 3D target. I was like, that could have been just gone. And I was so lucky that landed right in an 8-ring. And then obviously at the Classic, I had the same thing. And like I said, it's not nerves. I mean, I came right back. It's like, okay, that short circuit, getting right back to it, follow up with a 10. Let's go.
Yeah, 100% happens to everybody. I don't think it's really, I guess John Dillinger used to call it a mini claps. This is probably a little bit more than a mini claps, is like a medium to a large claps, but it's, it gets caught on those fingers, the bow arm flies, whichever. So if you're left-handed, it's going the opposite direction. And, I have a target from my practice session today. I sent it to John earlier, ended up putting, actually, John, after I sent that to you, I did another one a couple ends later. So I have like 100 arrows. I had 3 of those shots, and that's just where I'm at, but they're making drastic improvements. And they were out there, same spot. And it's the exact same thing, because you can go bang, bang, bang down the middle. And as soon as you get outside of where your brain needs to be and you get ahead of yourself, which is, I think, really what's happening there, you're getting ahead and it goes. And that's the exact same spot, high right, 1-2 ring. But, that's it. That's all that's out there. And then everything else is, it's not a nerves thing. It's just that. And let's face it, what we do is hard. It's freaking hard. And it's a little bit of a definition of insanity, trying to do it over and over and over again to get it to as perfect as possible, knowing damn well you're never going to be perfect.
I heard a quote recently. It's, we don't do this because it's easy. We do it because they thought it was going to be easy.
I like it. I like it. All right, guys. Outside of the banter, I think this was an outstanding episode. I'm really appreciative that you guys were able to hop in and we were communicate this. And
I mean, it's about time you guys got some quality content.
100%. It's about time. About time. We're doing our best. Somebody's got to
messing.
I know. Everybody's we got up to like 40 I don't know if you guys 47 42 viewers, John.
42 people without a life. Awesome.
Barebow losers.
Does the 4 of us count towards that 42 because we're leading the pack without a life?
There you 100%. Go. There you go.
We're sitting here talking about Barebow.
Like, yeah.
Hey, you got anything you have to do? Like, you got anything like going on? Like, you gotta take a nap or anything? No.
No, I'm gonna go watch these 4 dudes talk about trash archery according to the compound and Olympic recurve world. It's all good. All right. Yeah. Neil Frowna says checking in with no life.
That's our boy.
That's our boy. Oh, it's funny.
That's why we do Barebow.
That's right. 100%. We enjoy the struggle. Embrace the suck, people. All right. With that being said, Barebow Project out. We'll see you guys. Thanks, guys. See you. Have a good night.